Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 41 of Duke's Download. And we have, almost surreal to say, Boy George as our guest today, who is literally, as I'm sure you all know, one of literally the coolest, most iconic people in pop culture history. I'm so excited to have him today. And I really appreciate all the support you guys have shown me thus far. I can't believe we're 41 episodes in. It's been really fun getting to talk to all of these incredible people. And I mean, Boy George, it doesn't get more incredible and insane than that. So I'm just going to give him a minute to come on. It may take a minute or two. Let's see. I'm going to keep track of the comments here. But yeah, no, I've actually known George, as I'm sure we'll discuss, since I was a little kid. I haven't seen him. Oh, here he is. He's on. Let me add him here. Hold on. There he is, Boy George. Should be connected. Hello there.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you? I'm not sure
Good.
about
Always
the
looking
where
incredible.
I am, but, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. I'm not sure if I should displace it there. Maybe I'll put it there, then I'm back, and that's good. Look.
It's perfect.
Are you in Los Angeles?
I am. I'm in West Hollywood, of course, which is where I'm at. I'm a WeHo boy. But no, you look incredible as usual. I mean, are you? Is that the way you look around the house? I mean, you look incredible as always. I was thinking how crazy it is. I think it's been the last time I saw you in person. You probably don't remember this, but was when I was 9 years old. I think this was the last time. I was sitting. I remember vividly. It's literally one of the memories that impacted my life. I remember sitting in the back of your dressing room when you were with Paul Starr putting your makeup on, and I remember being like, "This is an unforgettable moment." It was incredible.
It's really nice for you to hear you say Paul's name, because Paul, obviously, we lost Paul. Paul was an incredible makeup artist, and in fact, Paul was really how I got to know your mother, Belinda, but also how I got to know about you, because Paul spoke very fondly of you all the time, and he just, was obviously very close to Belinda, and that's how I really got to. I think I actually met Belinda through Paul originally. I mean, we'd all bumped into each other on TV shows, and we've been on done lots of gigs together. But it was really Paul, because Paul was the makeup artist. The makeup artist knows stuff.
Well, by the way, my mom sends her love, and
where is your mom? Is she in India, or is she around in America?
She's actually, my parents actually, I won't bore you with the whole story, but my mom and dad just moved to Mexico City.
Wow.
My mom's on, by the way. She just said, "Loved Paul."
Hi, Belinda. Well, Mexico City, I've been once, and I loved it there. I mean, it was so vibrant, and I thought the people were just the most beautiful people. I remember arriving in Mexico City for a DJ gig, must have been about 10 or 15 years ago. And these kids that came to meet me at the airport, they were like these punk rockers, and they were all like colored hair, and I was terrified. And they were the sweetest and most amazing people. I never go there very much, but it's a great place. Maybe I'll go and visit your mum.
Yeah, she just wrote "Love you, George" in the comment with 10 exclamation points. But no, you should. I mean, I have to say, I went there for the first time a week ago, and they're just getting settled there. But it's basically because they lived in Thailand for the last 5 years, and then Thailand, the COVID situation there is a mess. My mom just wrote, "Yes, come visit." I love how she's live blogging, but no, it's an amazing place. It's definitely got an edge, like a punk kind of sensibility to it. It's funky. So no, you should. But are you in London right now, or in
London? In my house in London. I've been back in my house my house has been sort of redone in the last 3 years, so I haven't lived here for 3 years. It's been insane. So I've been I was in Australia doing The Voice every year for about 4 years, and then I've been hopping around from house to house over the last couple of years. I've stayed in some fun houses of other famous people, which has been hilarious. And so I can say I've slept in Emma Stone's bed. I've also slept in James Corden's bed, so it's been fun. But it's really nice to be home in my own house.
I can imagine. It's a traumatizing experience sometimes to be out of your own home for a long period of time. Oh, and my mom mentioned in the comments here that Hampstead, of course. I don't know if we met at that time, but I remember, we all lived next to each other in Hampstead Heath back in the.
Oh, and I remember there was a fire. Wasn't there a fire in your flat or something? I remember there was a fire.
I know. Yeah, I can't believe you remember that. There was, yeah, there was. It was bad. I mean, we were fine, obviously, but we had to move out. Speaking of moving out of your house.
It's so terrible because now I made a joke of it, but I remember just, with these amazing things about, when you hear stories about other celebrities that live, near you, and you go, Belinda Carl lives in the next street.
That neighborhood, there were a lot of.
That I even knew you guys were there. So yeah, so it was an alert system.
And that was a good time living in that in that area in the late '90s. Hampstead still is a beautiful area, but no. So I remember you from back then. I remember meeting you back on that tour back in 2001, probably. But I was going to ask you about your recent tour because I saw that was the tour with Culture Club the first time you've been on stage since pre-COVID, or have you done some other shows?
We did a live stream sort of in that dip. There was that little gap between the two lockdowns.
Right.
So we did a live stream from Wembley, which was very bizarre because there was a handful of people, but there was no audience, And then we've just done two shows. One got cancelled, unfortunately, not because of COVID, because of some, problem with the rain. In this country, if there's leaves or there's wind or rain, everything gets shut down. We're not kind of extreme weather, so that gig got cancelled. We have a Pride show in Scotland next month, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, great!
I have to say, I'm literally, I don't know about your mum, but I am gagging to get back on stage. I'm like, get me a tour.
Oh yeah,
work. I'm so excited about performing again. And to be honest with you, having this year off, a year and a half really, has been. It's been a great time to kind of pause and look at some, personal stuff, kind of do some reflecting. Done a lot of music this year. I've been very creative and I feel like I've found a sort of new passion for what I do. This has been the reward of this year, even though, it's been kind of boring not working and,
Well, as I was going to talk about later, I've been so impressed by how prolific you've been with recording and writing, and it's been incredible.
Well, I decided also to sort of come out of the lyrical closet a bit because I felt like everyone talks about how open everyone is now and everybody's free to express themselves. But I suddenly thought, no one really sings about being gay or whatever it may be. We sort of tend to sing about the same things, heartbreak, dancing, but no one actually nobody talks about their life. So I decided that, and also because I think there gets to a point when you're writing so much, you can only continue to write about your relationship for so long. And then I think you have to sort of, for me personally, I'm really sort of searching for things to write about. So I decided to, and because when I was on stage a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about my sexuality. And it was so funny because when you do that on stage, people tend to roll their eyes like, oh, here he goes again. And I suddenly realized I barely mention it really. I mean, but I feel like, why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I? So I started to kind of add that stuff much more into my narrative when I write.
Well, if I may, actually, that leads into a really interesting question, which is sort of what I was planning to ask you already, because I was watching the clip from the Grammys in 1984 when you made the comment about, America, a good drag queen when you see one. And my question is, like, has that changed over the years? I mean, obviously, I know maybe in the '80s you were a little bit, not a lot, but a little more sort of, shall we say, not vague, but you know what I mean, a little less explicit about your sexuality and all that. Like, has that changed a lot over the years?
Like, you know, when I look back now, first of all, you know, when I came out in 1976. In fact, my mum told me the other day, she thinks I came out when I was 11. And I was like, really? It was that young? I saw my first Bowie concert when I was 11. But remember, I grew up in the 70s where it was a kind of, you know, we were the sort of, in a way, we had the luxury of this sort of new freedom because, you know, homosexuality was legalized around 69. So our generation were the sort of beneficiaries of this new type of freedom where you didn't really have to sort of, you know, really apologize for what you were, you know. And the gay scene back in the 70s, you know, I never really felt part of that, you know, because I was a punk rocker. I'd walk into gay clubs, everybody was in check shirts and, you know, leather chaps, and, you know, they all looked like the Village People. And here we were, spoiling it for the others, because there was this kind of sense that sort of people like me were spoiling this kind of bid for assimilation. If it wasn't for you exhibitionists running around screaming and showing off, we'd all be accepted. And I think we had a sense of that when we were teenagers, you know, of not fitting in, sort of being too gay for the gays and too gay for the straights. So you sort of existed in this weird, what I describe as a sexual no man's land, you know, where you kind of just, you made your own idea about what you were, as a, you know, because, you know, this idea that there's one type of gay person is ridiculous, you know. Even if you sat at a table with 12 other people in makeup, there's no guarantee that you would have the same political or social views. You know, this idea that you could define somebody by their wardrobe or by the lack of wardrobe. You know, as I've got older, I've realized more and more that, you know, you can't do it. And I think with all the sort of, you know, freedom of expression that exists now, you know, I think that's the wonderful thing. And I feel like, you know, I was part of that, you know. But
I was going to say, I think you were a massive part of that.
When I was 16, I have to say, I wasn't particularly political. I think, you know, the new generation is, even your generation, I think, was more political because, you know, it was a different time. And, you know, I think we grew up with, in the 70s when I was a kid, we grew up with a lot of, you know, very open homophobia. You know, people just said, you know, poor queer girl, all of that stuff was a regular thing at home, at school. Teachers, everyone used that language. It was on the TV, it was in magazines. And even when I went on to become famous, you know, there would still be headlines, Puff with muscles, is it a bird, is it a plane, is it Boy George? You know, you couldn't get away with that stuff now. So I think when I first got famous, I was very aware, or at least inside I was aware of, oh, you know, I better be a little bit careful. I don't
What gave you the courage to be like, I mean, you literally were probably the only person, at least in mainstream pop culture, that was fighting against that, whether you were doing it consciously or not. Like,
well,
how did you...
I think that when you're a teenager, you feel like you have the right, undeniable right to be whoever you want to be. And you literally cannot understand any other person objecting to that. You're like, why do you care? But at the same time, you kind of get off on the sort of horror that you that you create around you when you step into a lift, you know, with 6 businessmen and you've got dreadlocks and makeup on, and you see them kind of struggling with your presence. You know, as a teenager, you love that. It's part of the thrill of being a teenager. So, you know, that was a big part of it as well. And, you know, I would say, pretty spiritually unconscious as a teenager. I wasn't really interested in other people's feelings. You know, I was kind of, I suppose in a way, I was kind of like a typical pop star. I was about myself, you know, and as I've got older, you know, I've realized that what I did in my kind of youthful belligerence had a massive effect on other people. And when people come up to me and say, oh my God, when I saw you, it gave me permission to be myself. And that doesn't, to me, that doesn't matter whether it's, you know, a gay person or a straight person or whatever. So many people have come up to me and said, over the years, you helped me to find confidence to be who I wanted to be. And for me, that's like job done. You know, if somebody feels inspired by what I've done, you know, then that makes me feel really happy, and it makes me feel like what I'm doing is worthwhile. And, you know, I feel like as a gay public figure, you're always sort of maneuvering your way through other people's ideas about what you are. You know,
kind of like what Little Nas is going through.
People always want to know who's the lady, who's the man, all that sort of stuff. And you get all that kind of weird, uncomfortable stuff that no one really says, but you feel it. You know, you feel it around you, and you think, you do wonder why people are so uptight, you know. I mean, I think it's better now.
Well, I mean, I find it so interesting. I don't know if you're that familiar with him, but like what's happening with this artist, Little Nas X, you know, I mean, like, you know, the fact that, you know, people are so, like, everybody's opinion about, I think that's part of what he's trying to challenge, you know, everybody's conception of what a gay artist should be. And that's part of what you just talked about. I love the fact that you're still, in a way, sort of evolving in the way that you talk about your own sexuality and your music. And
I mean, I've seen some of the videos, and you know, they're wild, and you know, they're big budget videos. They're like these kind of 80s videos. I think your mum will remember those budgets, ridiculous budgets. And people don't really have those budgets anymore. But I think for me personally, as a gay man, I think the thing that really freaks people out most is intimacy, not sex. I think the wider public already think about gay people as, you know, that all we do is have sex. They don't realize
okay, you're right. That's the way people
dogs to feed, bills to pay, mothers to visit, all of that stuff. You know, I joke that my gayness takes up about 4 hours a month, you know, but I think, you know, to me, you know, an artist has to express themselves as they feel in that moment. And, you know, I as I say, you know, I do my thing, and my thing, you know, it's more of a, for me personally, I feel like it's a spiritual journey. I'm trying to understand who I am spiritually, not necessarily who I am as my sexuality or my gender or my age or any of those things. I want to understand myself as a spiritual person, and you know, I've been practicing this thing recently called the Three Principles, which is really about finding who you are in between, you think, in the spaces between your ideas about yourself. You know, the sense of it is that we're all we are kind of basically all spiritual, you know, entities, and we shouldn't necessarily get bogged down in smaller ideas of who we are. You know, I think that, you know, that's something that comes with age, you know, so I don't define myself by my sexuality or my gender or my age or what I do for a job. I try to think a little bit bigger than that, because I think sometimes you can make yourself less by over-explaining who you are. You know? And I want to be free to be whoever I'm going to be next.
So it's right. If you're so worried and sort of bogged down in what your sort of, you know, preconception is of who you are and what you think other people, you think other people perceive you and all that, then
I think it's important to point out that, you know, if you are lost in someone else's sex, you know, if you're a homophobic person and you're lost in what you think is an idea of another person, that's troubling for you, because it's like, why are you in my head? Why are you in my bed? You know, and, you know, it's sort of like, I worry for that person, because, you know, as I say, I don't go around fixating on what other people get up to, you know. I feel like it's fascinating, you know, subject of homophobia, because I always say to the audience, you know, it's something else for you not to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't need to get involved in this. I mean, I'd love your support. You know, I'd love I'd love you to celebrate who I am, but I don't really need you to get into the nitty-gritty of what you think my life is. Because you're entirely wrong.
Absolutely. No, and I mean, I'm really impressed. I mean, I love all of your new music. I mean, name a number I'm obsessed with, because I love 80s, you know, synth music. I mean, I love Cool Karaoke. I love Dirty Disco. And of course, the new song that you have out today, Free Britney, which I would love for you to talk about a bit, if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm really excited it came out. I was worried that I was going to kind of miss the moment, because it really was me focusing on the things that are happening now, and mental health is such a big subject now. And I say in the song, how can you get better if they say you can't? That in itself is such a heavy burden for somebody with any mental health problems. Oh, you are stuck in this. You can never change. Then it makes the kind of idea of rehabilitation the biggest lie in the world. So when I watched Britney talking about the conservatorship, and I thought, once I heard it from her mouth, what she was saying and how she felt about it, it hit me like a hammer. And I was like, wow, I've never really even thought about it. I never really thought about what she must be going through. Obviously, I've had my public dramas, what you call a hair-shading moments. I've had a few of those. So I'm not going to condemn anyone for that. But listening to what she's saying, I thought, wow, it's incredible that this can even go on in this so-called civilized world that we live in, where everybody is so conscious of other people's mental health. I feel like, so that's why I wrote the song, and in a way, the song's also about, I say my songs belong to corporations, but I'm going to write another one.
No.
When I was 22, I didn't realize what I was signing. This is the truth. I was like, I just wanted a boyfriend. So like,
you were like, yeah, like my mom always says, she was focused on having fun and meeting boys, and so a lot of the decisions she made back then, she didn't realize what she was doing, and
also I have to say, let's just also, I was talking about you on the Go-Go's, what an amazing band, what an amazing, so amazing, Our Lips Are Sealed, such a great song, and I think it is. It's important to talk about things that are happening. I don't know if Britney's heard my song.
I'm sure if she hasn't, she will. I mean, come on, I have no doubt. I mean, Boy George writes a song about you. I have no idea.
The most important thing I think about the track is it's a really good track. So, that's first and foremost the most important thing. Like, the groove is sick as hell. And it's, it's a gorgeous disco moment. And it's celebrating. Because I think you can do dance music and have something to say. And in a way, like, I was just listening to the new Kanye album, which I love. I know it got a lot of bad reviews, but like, I love the opening track. I think it's amazing. And I love anybody with an axe to grind. I love an artist, I would say I love anyone with an axe to grind, Chrissy Hines, because it rhymes, but I love passionate people, and music is always more interesting when somebody has something personal to say. And so I love that.
No, and I mean, I think it's like you said, that moment. I think for a lot of people, like I always felt guilty for participating and perpetuating this idea that, because I remember plenty of times saying, oh, Britney, I've watched interviews, she can barely, put two words together or whatever, like she seems like she's either on drugs or clearly now. And when I listened to that audio, I realized that's exactly what they wanted. They were trying to perpetuate because they were putting her on meds against her will. They were trying to make people think that oh, she can't, she's irredeemable, she can't come back from this. And I think for a lot of people, when they heard that audio and she was completely lucid, completely there, it was like, wow, I think we all, the society, really participated in this. And I think, it's great that you've written a song about that, and hopefully it'll never happen again.
I hope so, yeah. And the fact is, Britney, through her suffering, it's a massive gift to the world for her to, let people know what she's going through, and the support that she's getting is unbelievable. I mean, there's just such a big movement, and I kept hearing that saying, "Free Britney, free Britney," and as a writer, it just got in my head. I was just like, "Free Britney, yeah, and free yourself." I just couldn't help myself. It was like,
it's so good. I love it. I played it for my friend here who was here earlier, and we were both like dancing, and we were loving it. But I know we only have 5 minutes left, but I wanted to ask you, of course, about your biopic, which I'm so excited to see when it gets made. Where are you at in the process with it now? Are you? I know you're casting for the lead. What has that process been like?
I love that you're suggesting I have any say over what happens.
Say that one more time.
I said I love the suggestion that I have any say over what happens. I mean, it's
Yeah. I mean, I know what you mean.
they're very difficult things to make. They're very difficult things to make successful. So I take the view that Boy George particularly is, it's almost for me a sort of cartoon character, that Boy George, that sort of 80s Boy George. I mean, I'm so different to him now. There's still similarities, but I don't feel precious about it. Obviously, if it's a bad movie, I'll be the first person to say. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. Who's that about? But I'm really hoping that it will be honest and truthful and, kind of raw, I feel like that would be exciting, but also glamorous. I think there's got to be glamorous and fun. And to a certain extent, you don't want to sort of, like explain everything away. You want some, mystery. I feel like in the last 20 years, everybody sort of has now seen the wizard behind the curtain. When I was a kid, I believed in the wizard, and I still believe in the wizard, So, I don't want to spoil people's idea of who I am, and, and people are allowed to kind of have fantasies about who you are. I think it's kind of good. I celebrate that.
No, well, I mean, I think the two can exist. I think part of, and especially now, what part of makes this not newest act. You know what I mean? Newest.
I feel like saying something slightly naughty, and that is that I think. Have you heard of this artist called Youngblood?
Yeah.
I think he might be auditioning for me.
Really? You're kidding? Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my!
There's a few other people too, but I kind of like the idea of that. I was driving past the big theatre last week, and there was he was playing in London, and there were all these amazing kids dressed up, with punk hairdos and makeup, and it just made me smile so much. It just brought me so much joy. I was like, wow, it's so great that these kids are doing it still and carrying that tradition. So, but obviously, I don't know who's going to end up taking the role. Do
you have without getting into the deep of it, like, do you to that extent, you have at least a advisory role in being able to help shape who ends up taking the role?
Well, I feel like, James, I don't make movies, I make records. So when it comes to records, I'm like Muhammad Ali, you can't tell me anything about making records. But when it comes to making movies, I'm really out of my depth. So I think at the end of the day, I remember when they said that Meryl Streep was playing Margaret Thatcher, I was like, this is never going to work. And I was so wrong, And I think great acting is great acting. So, and it's not a look-alike competition. It's about somebody sort of translating that kind of frequency. It's not necessarily a documentary. It's fantasy-based.
Totally. Right, absolutely. It doesn't have to be like an exact, they don't have to look or sound exactly like you.
Well, they have to get the look right. To me, it's like, you can't fake that, get that right, because I've seen scary.
But it's more important to capture the essence as opposed to capturing like the, or the exact hand movements or like,
No, but if they get the eyeliner wrong, that's a no-no. You have to get the eyeliner right.
No, believe me, I remember from that experience. I was like, wow, the makeup, the eyeliner, it was like, okay. No wonder I'm gay. After I got to watch you putting on your makeup, I was like, that was like literally life-defining moment. But before I let you go, I just wanted to ask if, not that you don't already have a billion things on your plate, but are there other maybe touring plans potentially, or are there other things you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of, making lots of music, and I'm kind of breaking all the rules in terms of how I drop things. So I'm dropping stuff almost all the time.
Well, I saw that for your 60th,
if something doesn't come out, I get very upset. I'm like, why has nothing come out?
Well, no, it's amazing. I mean, I saw that you said, maybe I'm getting this wrong, but that you said for your 60th, you're planning to drop 60 songs. Is that
Yeah,
right?
well, I've written close to 97 songs
Oh
this.
my God.
So, and I
Wow.
just thought the Kanye album's got like 30 tracks. I'm like, I'm just gonna put an album out with like 60 tracks on or something. Maybe I'll try and do like the longest album ever made. I don't know, like a Bob Dylan album that has 40 tracks on it. But yeah, I feel like obviously, you know, it's only gonna matter to whom it matters. You know, fans. If Bowie was to release 60 songs, I would be totally interested. I'm not expecting everybody in the world to be like, oh, it's amazing. But for people that are into what I do, they're going to love it. And that's really what I'm focused on.
Everything I've heard, I'm obsessed with. So,
But I
you're
think
like,
you're going to like the new one because there's a new one called Here Come the Activists, which I think I might jump the queue.
oh wow, that sounds great.
It's the one that says, hey, I'm gay. Hey, I'm gay.
Hey, it sounds like my kind of song.
I mean, I know I don't need to say it, it's kind of obvious, but I feel it's so catchy. I played it at my barbecue on Sunday, and all my straight relatives were singing along.
You had them all singing "I'm gay."
Hey,
Oh, that's so cute. I can't wait to hear it.
I'll send it to you.
George, I'm so grateful. I'm glad you have no idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and you look so great, by the way. You're looking so good.
Thank you.
So
And I hope that either in England, I mean, I might make it out there next year, or hopefully when you come over here, I'd love to see you in person. So
Absolutely. I'm so glad I could do this. Lovely to speak to you. God bless. Yeah.
thank you. Have a good night over there. Lots of love. Bye. Bye.